And we're back on the Drive at 5 on intellectualradio.com/iHeart radio station. My next guest is a producer, writer, director, and filmmaker. Her latest film called Signatures that resulted in the Illinois legislature in Springfield to make cursive writing mandatory in school. Wow, that's impressive. Now she produces, writes, and directed, and she not co-wrote, but she has a new film, short film, that is creating a lot of buzz in the Black Film Festival and entitled Black Mama Sable.
Yes.
It details the 2020 Chicago riots that focuses on a rebellious teen and her grandmother as they discover the origins of the struggles of African Americans. Please give a Drive at 5 welcome back to Okema Gunn. Welcome back to the Drive.
Thank you. It's so great to be here.
Oh, thank you. You're like the second guest that said that ever. Please give intellectualradio.com/iHeart radio station an update since the last time you was on the Drive.
Okay, so last time I was here, I believe it was for the 25th annual Black Harvest Film Festival. So that was with a Sisterhood of Signatures, which you just introduced, was a great introduction. And that film was talking about a cursive and the importance of signatures, which, as you know, was very important in this election and helped to elect President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala, sorry, I had to say it right, Kamala Harris. So that was my last film. So this year's film that we're going to be talking about today is called Black Mama Sable. And you're right, it is about a rebellious teen that goes to visit her mystical grandmother over the summer and discovers the origins of the struggles of African Americans. So there's a lot of little tidbits in there, and I'm sure we'll get to that. But most importantly is that Black Mama Sable came out of a poem that I created during the pandemic. And I never really thought of it as being a sort of short film, but it kind of took on a life of its own. So that's why this film is so important to me, because it embellishes and it kind of talks about three generations in this film. And it was a passion project for me that was birthed out of the struggle that happened in 2020.
What inspired you, or the inspiration for the film Black Mama Sable?
Well, when I first started writing the poem for Black Mama Sable, there was some women that I had in mind when I thought about this character called Black Mama Sable. I thought of Maseko Myers, who ends up being the actress in this film, Margaret Burroughs, Gwendolyn Brooks, Lori Lightfoot. So these are kind of women that I thought about when I was creating this poem. And Black Mama Sable is a character that is a healing person. She's an elder in the community, and she's someone that people can look up to. But she's also a storyteller and an activist. So she's all these things rolled up into one. But in the same token, she's also kind of mysterious, and she had supernatural. So she's um, somebody that I would want to know, and somebody that I would want to maybe converse with if she was a real person, you know. So she's somebody that I made up in because of the time that we're living in. So she was somebody that I think the community needs, and that really somebody that I would want to know.
In the film Black Mama Sable deals with a defiant teen with her smart mouth
Yes.
and attitude. People, especially teens, could relate to in the film. Tell us about the defiant teen and why she was mad at the world due to the problems of the riot. When I saw it, I really want to reach out and touch her.
It grabbed.
Right. It was kind of like when you grow up in a generation.
It was a little disturbing.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So sorry to get off track, but tell us about the defiant teen and why she was mad at the world due to the problems of the riot.
Well, the young teen in the film, her name was Cadence Williams, played by Jada Hamilton, and Jada is an amazing actress. I picked her specifically for this role, and I mean she really kills this role. She, partly she understood the role, and I really didn't have to prompt her that much. Uh, as far as being a director. So she really understood the character. And I think that's what made the character come through. But as far as when I wrote the character, Cadence is actually the main character. So it's called Black Mama Sable, but I wanted it to be more of Cadence's experience. So when I first wrote it, I really wanted it to be through her eyes, but it's kind of simultaneously with Black Mama Sable and Cadence at the same time. So Cadence is angry because, first of all, she's a teen, and a lot of teens are angry. I can understand that, seeing the climate of what's going on today. But she's particularly angry because she has to go to her grandmother's house. Her father wants her to go there and to kind of straighten her out. But particularly their argument is about what's going on, the riots, how his behavior has been in certain instances. I'm not going to tell the argument, but she's kind of challenging him on his behavior, and he's also challenging her on her behavior. So they're both challenging each other to kind of do the right thing and be accountable. So those that's kind of what the argument is about in that short. They're both kind of holding each other accountable, but they're both frustrated with their circumstance.
Well, let's discuss the relatability
Okay.
of the film
Okay.
that teens can relate to, and parents with a defiant teen can relate to as well. Why is it important to combine the two personalities in this film and the concerns people should have from a parent perspective?
Okay.
So, if you look at the lens through a parent perspective, like and a shout out to Simeon Henderson, who
Right.
plays the role of the cop,
Right. The father. The
the
black.
father,
We call it the black cop.
the black cop,
Right.
who's also the father. I mean, in a way, you saw that look like, girl, if you ever throw that that jacket at me again, you see what?
Right. Right.
So, was it a challenge combining those two personalities and make it fit in the film?
Well, I do have to tell you that when I originally wrote the poem, it it just included Black Mama Sable, and then I added Cadence's perspective. And originally, Simeon's character was not there at all. But I knew that there had to be some kind of conflict in the short, because I knew that these were the issues that I struggled with. So the issues that are in the film were questions that I had that needed to be addressed. So Simeon's character, which is Officer Rashid Taylor, that addresses um, my concern with black police officers, white police officers, any color police officers, because the thing of it is, what if I was a black police officer? So the thing of it is, there's a lot of issues going on there. Not only is Officer Rashid Taylor, he is a black father, he's also a black police officer, so he has double duty as far as responsibility, and he's a black man in the community. So not only does he have to follow the law, he also has to protect minorities. So he has a twofold, and he has to be a black father. So he has triple the responsibility. And being a black man in America, he's very frustrated because he's trying to do the right thing, raise his daughter, but he's also trying to be a black man in America. And these are all issues that really come up, kind of bubble to the surface in the film. And that relationship shows between him and his daughter, the frustrations that they're going through, where they're at, and then just trying to connect wherever they are in that period, in that time.
One thing, one of the things that jump out at me, seeing the film, it is the beginning of the film are the pictures that
Mhm.
captures the riot. You don't have to say anything. The picture speaks 1,000 words.
Right.
It showcased the protesters, it showcased the police officers in Chicago. That tells the story of the fear and attention around the city of Chicago. Tell us about capturing the right picture to define the story you want to tell in the film, because a lot of pictures are out there. You, as the director, the producer, and the writer of this film, got to decide what key pictures that tells the story that you want to tell that complements the film.
So this is where a lot of people don't know. So some pictures I picked for from it's kind of like a database, and then some pictures my editor used. So my and shout out to Alaric Martin, he's my editor. Um, he helped me in the editing process. So as far as how the pictures were and how they oh somebody's calling. as, as far as how
That's
the
fine. I mean, the Emmy just flew away. That's
oh no.
I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Stop. So yeah, so as far as where was I? Where was I? See, that's why I
No,
hate that.
no, no, no. You were basically talking about and discussing your editor that pieced
Yes.
the film together, and you gave him a shout out, but you were going into details of how you picked the pictures.
Okay, so right, but the editor is very important because he's actually the one that picked some of those pictures out. So that's the point that I'm trying to make, is that most people don't know how important the editor is. The cinematographer, the editor, those are very key people in how the film is going to come about. Because when I originally started the film, it was 4.5 minutes, and it ended up being 8.5 minutes. So I did it through the 2020 Digital Storytelling Institute, which partnered with Community Workshop of Chicago and the University of Chicago Shire Arts and Logan Center. And so I did it as part of the student project. It started off as 4.5 minutes and ended up being 8.5 minutes. So originally, it did not start off like this. We filmed it, our first location was um, on the west side, and then we ended up filming it on the steps of the Taft Laredo House, which is the University of Chicago Humanities Department, on the steps. So that's actually the steps of on the University of Chicago.
Wow, that's amazing because we'll get into that later. The grandmother in the film understood what the child was going through and wanted to wait for the right time frame to
Mhm.
share her wisdom in her story. Why is it important for wisdom from the grandmother to take a key role in the film over the parents' wisdom, where the police officer plays? It basically, Grandmama, I'll listen to you, but my dad, nah.
Well, I
That's what it seems like to me.
Well, I think it has to do with familiarity too. I think that she spends a lot of time with her dad, and so he's with her all the time, and kind of like, and I think a lot of teens or young people, they think that, the parent is always like, "Nyah, nyah, nyah, nyah," just naggy and stuff like that. So she, I think that Grandma Sable, she really took the time to listen and saying, I know life is hard. I've been through it. I've been there. And she kind of took the approach. It was like, you know, what do you have to say? What is there? And I think she was listening more than talk. I mean, she did talk. She did tell her some things, but it was more of like it was more of of a gentler spirit. I think that um, Officer Rashid's character, he was a little harsh. Not I think in a loving way, but I think his demeanor and how he went about it was a little bit aggressive. And I think it was because he cared, and because, she had done some things that was maybe a little bit out of character. So he was going to address that as a police officer and as a father. But I think Black Mama Sable's character was trying to say, "Hey, you're my granddaughter. I love you also. I'm concerned. Why don't you open up to me and tell me what's going on?" And so I think sometimes the grandmother might be, a better solution to talk to than the parents, because they're, got more wisdom, and they just,
Yeah, my gr-
grandmama's just always, have that special
yeah, I
touch.
know. Because back in the day, grandma was that they had that little wooden stick, and they'll just pop you.
Or that
Yeah,
pop. You can't do that pop now because they
they
might
just
call
pop.
somebody on you.
They just pop you.
Yeah, well, you can't pop like that no
you
more.
you 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 talk bad about your mom, huh? Pop. That's. I'm just saying. Now, let's get to the props in the
Yes.
film that symbolizes something meaningful, like the cane.
I was going to bring some
The
chimes for
the
you.
the,
I'm
the cane,
sorry.
the cane, and also the chimes in there,
Right.
which had the shots. It symbolized something.
It does. Everything in there means something.
If possible, could you describe to us about the props and the objects in the film that have meaning to it?
Okay. So first of all, I wanted to give shout out to my cinematographer, who's Amandila Kuzan, and he was a part of the cohort. So he was my cinematographer. I also want to give a shout out to Masakwa Myers because she was the not only did she play my Black Mama Sable, she was also the Yoruba consultant, African consultant, and I want to say Arthur Ade Amaker. I wanted to say it right. So I had two Yoruba consultants because Black Mama Sable is entrenched in African culture. So I had to get it right because there's certain traditions of the Yoruba culture that are true. And so I couldn't just make it up. I had to actually go out and do the research. So the cane actually represents when she taps the cane on the ground, she's actually awakening the ancestors. And there's kind of like a ceremony. And so I had to tie 9 ribbons around the staff or the cane that she had, which it represents the 9, I want to say the 9 rivers and the 9 children of the goddess, the Yoruba goddess Oya, who is an Orisha. They call it a spirit, Orisha. And so this is all research that I had to do, become familiar with the Yoruba culture. And found it very fascinating because my name actually is Igbo, and I have Igbo in my family. And so, the Igbos and the Yoruba are Nigerian culture. That's a whole nother story. But it was very fascinating with that culture, and I wanted to include that in the film because I thought it was important for people to know that there's this whole nother culture that we don't know about.
Well, Mama Sable is like all black grandmothers that you see, that have that understanding. However, can set you straight at the same
That's right.
time. Tell us about the close relationship between the grandmother and her grandchild, who is the defiant teen.
Well, they do have a special relationship. Black Mama Sable not only does she has wisdom, she also has a kind of supernatural power. And Cadence is just trying to figure out, does she have any supernatural powers? Is she like her grandmother? Is she just like every other teen? Is she, what is she? What's her identity? So as she is going through all these things, the pandemic, the thing with her father, the riots, everything, the peer pressure, as she's going through all these things, she's still trying to figure out. She talks to Black Mama Sable and says, "You know what? I'm having these dreams. Does that mean something or does it not?" So that's kind of a connection that they have in their family history, is that they may have that special connection of, supernatural gifts.
So, for the people that's out there listening,
Yes.
as the director, the writer, and the producer of this film, what do you want the listeners that's watching the film to get out of it? What lesson do you want them to get out of it?
That's a good question. So before we do anything, I just wanted to say that Black Mama Sable is playing at the 26th annual Black Harvest Film Festival from November, which is starting tomorrow, November 10th through the November 23rd, and it's part of the Voices of Our Time Shorts Block um, collaboration. So it will be playing for about 2 weeks. So that's very important because it's a world premiere. So what I want people to know from this film is that legacy is important. We need to be aware of what's going on in our time. We also need to be aware of who we are as a people and identity, and that it's important to be true to yourself and have a purpose. So I believe that Black Mama Sable embodies three generations. So we have Cadence, we have Officer Rashid Taylor, and we have Black Mama Sable. These are all three different generations. So I wanted to kind of embody that in the short film, and I believe that I did. And that I also know that everybody has a gift and everybody has a talent, and I think that's something that I wanted to portray also in the film. That all talents are not the same. So even even Officer Rashid, he may not have had a supernatural power, but maybe his superpower was being a dad, being there for his daughter, and being a person in the community. Because being a Black police officer is not easy. And I'm not, if I was a Black male, I don't think I would want to be a Black police officer right now. It's just very difficult, and it's scary being out on the streets. There's so many things going on. People are hurting right now, and there's a healing process that needs to take place. But I think that it's difficult just to be a police officer right now. And I think I wanted to talk about that in the film too. Is that not all police officers are bad? This particular police officer in my film, the Black African American police officer, he's trying to do the right thing. And so I wanted to portray him as being somebody that is trying to do the right thing by everybody.
So please give intellectualradio.com/iHeartRadio station where they can see your film. Well, reiterate what you just said earlier.
Okay.
And how they can get a hold of you.
Okay, I'll do that plug again because so yes, so Black Mama Sable will be at the 26th annual Black Harvest Film Festival, and that will be virtual, which is online because of the situation. So you can see Black Mama Sable from November 10th to November 23rd in the Voices of Our Time Shorts Block section. And so in order to see that, you need to go to Siskel, SiskelFilmCenter.org to buy tickets. And that's pretty much it. Can I say one other thing?
Okay,
I want
hurry up.
Yes, I also want to give a shout out to my mentee Maya Hooks. She also has a film in the film festival. 13-year-old Maya Hooks has her own film, which I helped her write and produce. And her film is called Black Girl versus Ambiguous, and that is also in the 26th annual film festival from November 11th to November 23rd.
That's going to do it for us on the Drive at 5 on intellectualradio.com/IR station. Thanks to Earl Winfrey, our executive producer, Wanda, who's behind the scenes. You guys have a great week.